So a look back at the highlights of the race thus far, which began with Klaus Bachler taking the advantage away from Raffaele Marciello. Porsche ahead of Mercedes as the cars dived downhill for the first time of asking, wriggling their way through Eau Rouge. And despite everybody's fears about the start, it was an absolutely perfectly clean first hour of the race. We had the cars absolutely together, turning their way through La Source, this pure GT3 grid, very evenly matched, with the cars 3 wide, almost 4 abreast, going up towards Radion and then Les Combes. Those behind getting a tow benefited as the first casualty was Nigel Bay, tapped into a spin by Kenny Harbell's Mercedes. The Marshals got that car back on track and it was able to rejoin as we had Antonio Fuoco very keen indeed to get up and past Maxi Buch's Mercedes. Also keen was Loris Spinelli. He got involved with Janis Fitja coming out of Les Combes, the 2 Mercedes rubbing as the panels touched. Puncture for Sandy Mitchell. The Barwell Lamborghini had been leading the Gold Cup but was soon heading for the pit lane, and Stephen Grove's Porsche had a big lose at Blanchimont, and worse was to come for that car in the darkness. Luca Stoltz took on Koen Ledergaard, and Ledergaard lost the place and then mowed the lawn on the way down the hill. Got a bit of a squeeze. He then had to battle with Marciello, who got past him. The Porsche retook, and then the Mercedes finally made it stick on the inside going into Les Combes. In the Gold Cup, a change of place as on the inside line Eddie Cheever took over the lead from Jens Liebhauser, but Jens Liebhauser was going to have a rotten stint, as so too did Cesar Gazzo, losing it out of Blanchimont, headbutting the wall, and although the car was able to go straight to the pits, that's exactly where it stayed, and it was the race's first retirement with damage. Jens Liebhauser got involved with Valentin Pierberg coming out of the chicane. Then he got involved with Enrique Chavez down at Bruxelles and ended up in the gravel, which triggered a full course yellow into a safety car. On the restart, guess what? He got involved again, and this time was drilled by the number 563 Lamborghini that turned him around, and the Valentino Rossi Audi scattered in avoidance. Also off the road, Isaac Tutumulu Lopez, and as he was losing it, others hit the brakes, and 23 Aston Martin suffered a lot of frontal damage. A real send on the inside came from Patrick Niederhauser to try to get past the Iron Lynx Ferrari. Full course yellow called as Al-Faisal Al-Zubar drove into the back of Alex Malikin, who slowed quicker than anticipated, and both cars were out with the damage. The Sky Tempesta racing Mercedes of Jonathan Hui had a spin coming out of the chicane. He accelerated a little bit too prematurely and around came the back, and the time was lost really trying to get the car back in the right direction. But number 51, Nicholas Nielsen Ferrari, making its way into the mix as the battles raged on in the classes all the way up and down the order, and Jens Liebhauser was turned around yet again, this time by Christopher Hauser, and Hauser's Audi was out of the race after just 92 laps. Karim Ogier found somebody else's gravel, ran off the road, got stuck in the gravel bed, and that was yet another full course yellow into safety car. Everybody bunched up for the restart, back underway, and the Sky Tempesta Mercedes ran way, way wide and rejoined the circuit. Davide Rigon was on a mission to try to gain places. Oh, so nearly got involved with the number 33 Audi, which was another car that ended up off the road during the course of early evening. And so too did Dominic Fishley, who ran wide coming out of the Cours Paul Frere. Through the gravel, found the strip of recovery tarmac and got back into the race as 88 Mercedes AMG got past the sister car number 2, the Acodis ASP entry, moving ahead of the AMG Team Get Speed entry. Toe-to-toe went Nicholas Nielsen and Dennis Olsen downhill. Olsen on the outside in the KCMG Porsche, just touching the back of the Ferrari, but thankfully they got away with it. And then Marco Mappelli, having just taken over the lead, had a puncture, and the K-Pax Lamborghini had to limp round for a good half a lap before it could get to the pits for the tyre to be changed. It dropped them off the lead lap, and they have not yet got back onto that lead lap. The cars battle their way through the darkness, and Adam Eteki's car early evening was another one that ground to a halt. That was a full course yellow. The car was able to be moved out of the way, and the race got back underway rapidly as Sebastian Bode went around up at Les Combes, and again others in the darkness had to scatter, and that's a very disconcerting feeling of seeing headlights staring at you. Matt Campbell, puncture at the end of the lap, number 74 Porsche limped in. So the car lost time, and others lost orientation altogether, coming out of Speaker's Corner down at turn 9, running off the road, going through the gravel. It was all as ever tightly bunched as the cars worked their way out of the chicane. And with a very different feel to the circuit now, with the drivers having to use the headlights, and in certain parts the floodlights around the perimeter of the circuit, the Sky Tempesta Mercedes rocketed over the line. More outbraking going on down towards turn 1 as 88 Mercedes moved through on the inside of 71 Iron Lynx Ferrari. It was was a good, bold move under braking as Raffaele Marciello, Jules Gounon and Danny Jonquidea continued to try to push their way back into contention. Albert Costa on his outlap had this big off coming out of the pith path. Absolutely amazed as to why the car went off the road, feeling that he'd cleared the corner, and although he dragged it back to the pit lane, the distraught Albert Costa was out of the race. The Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini that had struggled after a puncture early on was going no further. Then drama for number 911, the Herbert Motorsport Porsche off the road as well. That charged the barrier. That was another retirement, having gone well in the Gold Cup. We also lost with transmission woes the Bentley number 107. That too parked out on the circuit. That meant that Antonin Borka was going no further. And off the road at high speed at Blanchimont went Matt Payne. He needed attention, the barriers needed attention, and for an hour we had a red flag. The race did resume, of course, and when it did so, the battles up front raged on as the queue of cars came out of the chicane, ready to go racing once more. No peace for the teams, of course, as they were constantly having to be on their toes with these interruptions and taking advantage of full course yellows to try and put more fuel into the car and cycle through pit stops, rolling the dice all the time on strategy. An early morning full course yellow and safety car period also gave the teams the chance to serve their 4-minute mechanical technical pit stops. As yet more drama, Arjun Maini getting involved, and he would retire from the race with the number 21 Ferrari that got to turn around the AF Corsa entry. That was all up at Les Combes. Number 98 BMW though had led at the 6-hour mark, and Nick Katzberg was looking oh so strong as he turned his way into Les Combes. And Nick Katzberg, winner of the event back in 2015, clear in the race lead during the night as the WRT engineers and the Attempto mechanics too
46 under investigation for causing a collision
before the next round of stops. Early morning, and it was Raffaele Marciello who was on his toes to try to work his way back into contention. The 88 Acodis ASP team car, shared by Jules Gounon and Danny Jonquidea, and all three of them trying to get the car through the traffic with a minimal time lost. Then drama. A slow McLaren caught out Charles Weerts, and ploughing into the back of him was Nico Müller. The two WRT cars with huge damage. Weerts out of the race. Bad news for the championship. And number 46 soldiered onto the pit lane. That's still circulating to the delight of Valentino Rossi's fans. But WRT has had a pretty lousy race. Then this spin under the safety car. Number 51, the Iron Lynx Ferrari, getting it wrong coming out of Les Combes. Didn't go down a storm in race control, but at least the car didn't have any damage and was able to continue. At this juncture, it was number 71, Ferrari, that led the way, but Nick Tandy was chasing hard in number 47, Porsche, and eventually went through, taking over the place. 88, Jules Gounon at the wheel, trying to find a way up past number 74, Porsche, which he did. 74 in turn, having to get through the traffic against the Earl Bamber Singer Beer-backed Porsche. Tandy led and would then relay Laurens van Thor in the KCM-G Porsche, as we then had another full course yellow period as the battery went flat on number 4 Alain Ballon's car. Demon moved there on the inside by Michael Grenier to get ahead of the 56 Porsche, and on the pit stops 88 moved back ahead of 98. That meant Marciello came out ahead of Nick Yellerly. Didn't last for long though, because they would trade places on the track as the Sky Tempesta Mercedes came up to challenge the Valkenhorst BMW as they went over the timing line, battling in the Gold Cup down towards the hairpin at La Source. Dan Harper made a great move round the outside of Mauro Engel. BMW moving ahead of Mercedes, the junior team car, looking strong. And then we had this little mistake by Marciello. Out wide he bounced at the Cours Paul Frere. That gave Nick Yellerly every chance he needed to go through as off the road bounced Rima Jafali. Her Mercedes back on track, came down to the hairpin as the 35 Valkenhorst BMW of Henry Valkenhorst put the power down too soon out of La Source, looped it around and lost time against the class rivals. He didn't do the tyres any good as he gunned it back into action. Battle between Maxi Götz and Ricardo Feller. Different laps, but they were going absolutely door to door all the way down past the Heritage pits. But as the pit stops would cycle through, so BMW number 98 continued to look oh so strong. Fred Verviche had this moment against the Ferrari, and it's being under investigation for causing a collision, so a penalty looms for Fred Verviche. It's been a dramatic first part of the race and plenty more to come, as right now here at Spa, Nick Yellerly in number 98 leads the way in the Rover Racing BMW.